out of the Taino Fun House, Lenny Lenape territory, Little Dominican Republic, also known as Washington Heights. So I'd like to thank all of you for checking in right here in this live, and also all you future watchers that downloaded this show. I'd like to thank you. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do that. Like the show, and it'll go a long way to get this, to spread the word about our Taino culture. So I'm just gonna wait a little bit till some folks come in. Um, I did a little sound check. If you guys can't hear me, please let me know in the description below, the comment section, I should say. Man, I have to stand up for this show. I am standing up for this show because it's gonna be an incredible show, and it's something that a lot of people have asked me. Hey, Anani, what's up, man? Can hear you good. All right, awesome. Good job, man. Thanks for tuning in. So today's show, a lot of people through the years have asked me to talk about this topic. Um, I just want to give a little warning out there. This might upset some people because we're going to go way back into the ancient culture of our ancestors. And for many of us, what I'm going to discuss today, we really don't practice that, but many do. And it goes to show how our ancestors were very, very advanced, ahead of their time. Um, but I'm going to start with a creation story, chapter 3 to 4. And this was translated by Professor Aron, Juan Aron, from the University of Yale. And his mentor, or I should say his student, was Antonio Arroyo Stevens of The Cave of the Jaguar. Man, if you haven't got that book yet, please get it. It talks a lot about our creation stories, and what he did well was he compared our creation stories to the whole world, from the Greeks, the Romans, the South American indigenous people, the North American indigenous people, you name it, he compared it. And it's an amazing book. It was written in the 80s, in I believe it was the mid 2000s. He republished it. There's a part in the first chapter, if a lot of people can't get beyond the first chapter because he talked about the introduction, because he says that the Tainos don't exist. So a lot of people get offended by the book, but listen, if you stick by it, The Cave of the Jaguar, an amazing book. Antonio Arroyo Stevens, he did the research for us. So today I'm going to look at chapter 3 to 4, and there's a reason why I'm going to pick this story. It's called The Flight of the Huello Women. Okay? And then at the end, I want to tie it all in. And so today I want to talk about how our ancestors, the Caribbean indigenous people of the islands, the Greater Antilles, how they view sexuality, also sexual identity. Oh, how you doing? Hi, what's up? It's Kajing Wang. All right. So sexual identity has been a big issue, I guess, since the creation of humanity. Right? There's always been an expression of who am I? And as we know, biology teaches us, right, that we're sexual beings, and we're also social beings. It seems like there's an attraction both to the opposite sex and the same sex. And the bottom line, it's about expression of love, compassion, um, what's that word I'm looking for? Yeah, I guess love is the best word for it, right? But there is a need for human beings to connect with other human beings, both at a platonic friendship level, relative, family, and also relationship wise, where you can spend the rest of your life with someone. Um, but in our ancestral worldview in the Caribbean, the invaders were more of a traditional Roman Catholic mentality, man, woman, marriage, spend the rest of your life together. Well, today I'm going to kind of share with you the ancestral worldview of human sexuality and so on. So let me start with this story called The Flight of Wayo Women. As I mentioned in the past, um, Wahayona was the cultural hero. He was the male representative of, or I should say, the male representative of culture. And then, and then later in the story, we were introduced to a female, Wabonito, who was the spiritual healer. So check this out. Let me start with the story. He said to the women, "Leave behind your husbands and let us go to other lands and carry off much guayo. Leave your children and let us take only the herb with us, and later on we shall return for the others." Wahayona, which is translated into our pride, left with the women and he went searching for other lands. He came to a place called Matinino, which translates no fathers, where he soon left the women behind, and he went off to another region called Guanin. He had left the small children near a brook, and later, when they began to suffer hunger pains, they wept and they cried for their mothers who had gone off. The fathers were not able to help their children, who cried out in hunger for their mothers, saying, "Mama," trying to speak, but really asking for the breast. Thus they cried out, saying, "Toa, Toa," asking to be nursed. And while they behaved as someone asking things with deep desire and in a great voice, they were transformed into small frog-like animals called Tona, because they had cried out for nursing. The children were turned into frogs, and from that time on, the frog was held to be the voice of the springtime. In this way, all the men were left without women. So I'm just going to take a pause there. This is one of the. This is chapter 3 of 4 of the creation stories. So just want to give you a little context there, and we're going to get back to it later. Oh, peace, D Block. What's up, brother? All right. Hold on a second. I just looked at my notes. It's gonna be, man. I asked people later on if you guys could give some some questions, if you have some questions and stuff. So first off, let's go back. Let's go way back in time, thousands of years. As I said before, the Greater Antilles, Borinquen, Quisqueya, Cuba, Jamaica. There was many migrations, both from North America, Central America, South America, even the Pacific Islands, okay? Huge migrations, right? And now they're dating back by 7,000 years of people living on the islands. So, one of the greatest understandings of Taino culture is our spiritual view that our ancestors left behind. And one of the things they left behind is the concept of the semi, okay? And the semi is a sacred being. In future shows, I'm going to dedicate just on the semi, okay? And I'm going to give you my viewpoint, and you also can share your viewpoint. I'm going to take it off. But I have to set the foundation, okay? Now, this is Yokahu Bagua Marakoti. This is, as you can tell, it's like a mountain. It's triangular. And the triangle, whenever you see a triangle in Taino spirituality or in the artwork and stuff, you can see some of the carvings there, they're triangles. This is a reproduction of an original Yokahu, Bagua Marakoti. This is created by Ramon Guillen from Quisqueya. And it's clay. And what happens is, You see the triangle, sky on top, earth, and water. So Yokahu is the spirit of the yucca, as I mentioned in other shows. The spirit of the yucca. Yucca is substance, okay? And that's of the earth. And then he's Bagua, which is the water, which is a feminine symbol. So you got earth, which is feminine, water, which is feminine, and then you got the sky, which in many indigenous cultures is considered masculine. You know, when the rain comes down, rain will represent semen going on the earth, creating life. And that's when the seeds are germinated and they got the trees and the plants, and that's how we get our medicine, our fruits. So right here we have a representation of both male and female, masculine and feminine powers. And then check this out. His last name is Manokoti, which represents no beginnings, no father. It just is. And that's like, it's almost like, you know, nothingness, the void, you know, no beginning. And so you got the masculine, the feminine, and the void, you know, or as many people interpret it as both male and female together. And that is the representation of God. Now, through the ages, we have Atave, and this image can be found in many parts of the island in Borinquen, the Earth Mother. This specific came from the Dominican Republic, and she is the representation like Itibaka Hubaba, which is the giver of life. Okay, this is the feminine power of life. So Yokahu can represent both male and female, right? This was Yokahu was mostly buried under the yucca, and he will help germinate the yucca plant, and it will grow. So here is the representation of the masculine. He will go underground and he will dig and dig and dig, and then eventually his masculine power within the earth will fertilize a beautiful yucca plant so we can eat. And this is the representation of the feminine giving birth. Okay, so, and you can see there's the circle in the middle. Okay, the circle in the middle, which gives life. What you know, when you have the triangle and you have the circle, right? You have the circle in the middle. Two powerful images, the triangle and the circle. And this, I believe, the circle, the sacred circle, represents that when you plant the seed and it grows and grows and grows. So there you go. It's no death. Just, you know, when the tree dies or plant dies, they shoot out seeds. You know, so there's really no death. It's immortal. So that's Yokahu, Atave, male, female, both together. In a lot of communities, in indigenous, I was introduced to the Two Spirit Society here in New York City, the East Coast Two Spirit Society, and then the East Coast Two Spirit Society. And that I learned many things about this whole concept of male-female representation, and what a lot of people call, you know, homosexuality or lesbianism, whatever. In an indigenous way, it's a person manifesting both energies, you know, both energies, both male and female. I know there's a lot of stereotypical what do you call that? Labels that they put on people who are gay or lesbian and so on. But there's a great context. If you guys want to look this up, there's let me see, hold on a second. There's a whole tremendous movement of understanding, and it's called oh my god, there's my notes. I want to give you the right term. See, I'm already excited here for representing these powers, man, that come from the Creator. Queer Indigenous Studies. I'm going to put a link later on. Indigenous Queer Indigenous Studies. This is ancient stuff, man. These studies is ancient. According to the Two Spirit Society, before the introduction of European worldview, um, two spirit people, that means masculine and feminine in the one, were considered sacred being. They were considered sacred. Medicine people, by virtue of their existence, and it taught the people to live in harmony, to really respect both the masculine and feminine energies. So two spirit people were revered. They had their own communities. They had their own teachings. And then when colonization hit the ground, the violence occurred against two spirit people. Um, clash of values, and that's what happened. And it happened first in our islands in the Caribbean. I want to talk about that now. Um, there's a Taino person that I know for many years, and I like what she talks about that. I'll put a link down. You can Anna, um, Maureen Lara. She's from the Dominican Republic. I'm gonna put a link on her words, how she interprets the two spirit. But there was an archaeologist many years ago from Quisqueya, Dominican Republic, Mon Gonzalez, and he talks about how in the art, in the Taino art, in society itself, this whole concept of two spirit is very much alive. People like Juan Arom also highlighted that, how in the art, the semis and stuff, you can see perfect example. This whole female, masculine energies. Oh, making connections. 777. I appreciate you for this discussion. Oh man, thank you. I'm not an expert in this, but I'm just excited to share. And maybe in the future, I wanna invite a good friend of mine, to give a presentation on this, and she's of the Two Spirit Taino, V Perez, and I want to invite her. She doesn't know yet, but I will invite her. So, to get, if you guys are really interested, I'll put that link out soon. So here we go. Ready for this? Let's go back. There was a Spaniard that wrote about the sexuality of our ancestors, and guess what? He was the private doctor of, guess what? Christopher Columbus. That's right. Christopher Columbus. His name was Diego Alvarez Chanca. Don't get it confused with chancleta, but it's Chanca. He needed a good chancleta shot. But in 1495, he wrote in his logs, okay? Remember, he followed Columbus around. He talked about how men, okay, two spirits, super interesting, cool. Thank you, Anthony. He talked about how the men were practicing sodomy. That's right, it's his words. That men were raping men. That's how he saw it. He talked about transsexual in the Taino community, transvestites. He talked about eunuchs. Those are the ones that they don't practice. I guess they cut their testicles and stuff. And he talked about a lot about third gender groups and stuff within the Taino community. So you could just imagine. I'm gonna do my best to get those links. I have to scan it from his logs and stuff, but I can imagine the conversations he had with Christopher Columbus, while they drank their coffee, right? Hey man, look at these people, man. So he also talked about hold on a second. This is like a direct quote. The Taino people are largely sodomites. So that's horrible, man. I want to put the link below. There's a person named Tamika Hines Robinson. She wrote The Evolution of Sexual Behavior in the Caribbean, chapter 13. It's a psychological perspective. I'll put that link down. You guys can check that out. But she really goes into depth about our spirituality. I mean, our sexuality. Um, there was another famous person, Bartolomé La Casas. He was a priest. I mentioned him many times in this channel. He's considered like the champion. Well, the church says this, that he's the champion of the Indians, because he tried to defend them as much as he could. You know, he wrote letters to Rome about the atrocities and the killings. Um, but you know, his end game was to convert people to Catholicism, our ancestors to Catholicism. But when you read behind the lines, he was appalled by it. So he described this in his writings, the history of the Indies, 3 volumes. He said that the young that the invaders were shocked that when they saw our ancestors, they were naked, because they were very comfortable with their bodies. They weren't like the invaders. He mentioned about the young girls, and the boys were naked. He said the girls had loose hair, long hair, and many of them had ribbon on their forehead. You know, they would tie their hair um, around their forehead. And he mentioned how there were some men that would wear naguas. Naguas was for women, married women, that would cover their private parts. And what happened was they found men wearing this, and that was kind of like different for them. There was another unique situation. They were appalled by this, but yet they took advantage as well. You know, hypocrisy, right? Um, if you were a person of high honor, say a cacique or someone that comes from another yucayeque visiting your yucayeque, it was the norm to share your wife with that guest, and that's the highest level of generosity. You know, when you share your wife, or I assume your husband as well, because there were women also caciques. Um, so so it was like lending your wife for pleasure, but it was the highest form of generosity. So they experienced that. So it's like a free sexual expression was going on. Um, so of course the Spanish did not like that. We also practice polygamy. So if you were able to have many wives or many husbands, thumbs up. During that time, you can do that. But again, you have to honor your spouse and so on. Um, and I believe this is where they get that whole concept that of sodomy. You know, they were very free flowing society when it came to sexuality. Um, so hold on a second. If you have any questions so far, hold on a second. This is something that I really haven't got deep into it, but I'm starting to research it more and more about sexuality, because it's something that even to this day, as you know, many of the churches, many of the different traditions, it's always like a taboo when you talk about sexuality, relationships, and so on. In the traditional, religions, male, female. But in our ancestral, it seems like the Spanish were looking at people who were free, man. Our ancestors were free. They didn't have these labels or hang-ups and stuff. It was all about love, and expressing your love. Hold on a second. Just gotta read my notes here. But again, the Spanish, what they did was, the invaders, they imposed their worldview on our ancestors. Of the role of male and female, or the man and woman. And this is where you get the beginnings of machismo, right? Machismo. Now you know where we get it from, okay? Because our traditional way of society was the matrilineal, where the woman was the one that was in charge. So, for example, if a cacique was chosen, it was always the son of the cacique's sister. And if she didn't have a son, then the daughter will be the next cacique. Now, if she didn't have any children, then the cacique will go to his children, and if it was a female, then so be it. So we know there's caciques that were male and female, but it was always the aunt or the what do you call it, the sister of the cacique. Now, politically, the women chose the men to be part of the politics. So that's why you have a lot of male-oriented caciques in the history books, but you also have females too. Oh man, I can't find it. I know I wrote this somewhere. Hold on. Hold on a second. Now, the late great Dr. Yare Melendez, she wrote an article on the two-spirit Taino people, and I couldn't find that article. I spent past 3 days looking for it. Um, Something she published many years ago in the mid 2000s. But she had mentioned she found some writings from the Chronicles, the Spanish Chronicles, stating that whenever a Spaniard saw a male that was dressed like a woman or acted like a woman, they would chop off his head. And the same thing with the women practicing uh, male roles. So there's definitely proof from eyewitness from the Europeans that roles were not, they were fluid. Gender roles were fluid, and they couldn't understand that. And what they did was, instead of figuring it out, they just killed if you didn't fit their gender role or their gender model. It's crazy. They killed. So there's a lot of ancestors who were killed because I like that, making connections. Wow, that's hospitality. Word. So if you want to be a traditional Taino, there we go, man. So yeah, man. So that's the thing, man. It's like death, murder, was the result of you being, gender fluid, and so on. Now let me go back to the story because there's a theory about that. I want to bring it, and I kind of agree with it. Hold on a second. The theory of the warrior societies, the women warrior societies. Like, as I mentioned before, Anna Maureen Lara, I'm going to put a link of what she said many years ago, back in 2013, how she mentioned that when Wahayona, he's considered a hero in Taino culture, there was a shift in society. He took all the women and he put them on an island called Maitinino. And so there is a theory that these women were actually, two-spirit women, and they were warriors, protecting the people. And so remember, we just weren't mountain people. We were also in the oceans, navigators of the stars and the waters. So it seems like these women had a super role, and that's the story I mentioned before, how they left the children behind and so on. So that's gonna be a future show. I'm gonna try to and get her on the show so she can give her perspective. But there's theories about that, how these women that went to Maitinino, they were actually of the warrior societies, and the Spanish did see women warriors fighting on the front line. So gender roles was very fluid back in the day, believe it or not. You think people now are woke. Back then, man, it seems like, the circle, things come around. Things leave, things come back. But it's good to see that our ancestors were really faithful to love, faithful to the freedom of expression. Anybody have any questions so far? Now, the Catholic Church, they had an agenda, as we know. The agenda was evangelization. But one of the problems with our ancestors and the church was that they criminalized polygamy. Okay? So for hundreds and thousands of years, no more. And that created a rift. That created an issue. The Taino have connections with the Arawaks, with that Arawak. I read before that the Taino have connection. Well, what we know as Taino culture comes from many migrations. Okay, From the south, you have the Arawakan speaking people that they started in Guyana. I mean, excuse me, Colombia, Venezuela, that we call that now. They went up the Orinoco River, Guyana, and then they started island hopping from Trinidad to the Virgin Islands. Finally, they got to Puerto Rico, Borinquen, where they spent like 1,000 years there. And then they figure out, you know what? Let's just keep going. And they went to Quisqueya. Now they confronted some. They encountered some indigenous people that migrated from Central America, and also the Pacific Islands. So when you have all these people, they all gather as one. You know, boom, and around 1,000 Common Era, that's the Taino culture. So you have all these mixes of different tribes and ideals, and then boom, they created. It only lasted traditional culture, Taino culture only lasted maybe from 1,000 to 1492, right? Then there was a whole shift, and we're part of that shift. We are descendants of that shift, so we're constantly evolving as Taino. Also, the church, they went against what they call sodomy, which is people still use that now against homosexuality. You know, sodomy. So they were against that. So we knew there was sexual relationships among men. Have you heard of the Kane Indigenous Spiritual Circle? I'm curious if you read any of the Taino Chronicles on that. Oh yeah, that definitely. Yeah, I've been there. I know Miguel Segay for many years, man. We go back like 30 years almost. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff on that site. Pose. Okay, hold on a second. And also, the church definitely imposed male and female. What's the role of a man? What's the role of a woman? And that's another shift right there. Um, Also, I mentioned before about the cutting of the heads. The Spanish, whenever they found people, in their words, sodomy, our words, love, they will feed them to these war dogs that they wouldn't feed for days. And then what they will do, they'll hang you on a tree, and they'll put honey. They will do this to the rebels as well, the freedom fighters. They'll put honey on their calves, and then these dogs will come and they just devour your calf, and you'll just bleed to death. You know, and they did that to our two-spirit Taino folks. They will also cut their genitals. They will mutilate them. You know, both male and female. They'll mutilate their genitals. Horrible. And the worst thing was, and this is the hypocrisy of it all, they will rape. They will rape the people, or they will kidnap them. Horrible atrocities. One day I'm gonna dedicate a show on the atrocities, because we need to know this. So you could imagine the clash of cultures here, and this is what we call. And I keep saying this: intergenerational trauma. It's in us. And if you're a two-spirit person, I know you're feeling that when you people resist your way of life. You know. Hold on a second. Let me just. Yeah, so the Behique used to spend most of their days in life in the caves, and the cave is considered feminine because the cave, when you enter the cave into the deep cave, that's the vagina, and that's the source of life. So the Behique will literally turn into a female by doing that, So this whole gender roles, it was very active, fluid. Hold on a second. Man, there's just so much to say. I just want to just focus on the main stuff. But on a future show, I'm definitely going to talk about how important our ancestors saw our sexuality. We are the representation of God, the Creator, which is both male and female. And when you put that together, you're a perfect representation of Atabe and Yokahu, right? And it's endless. Yeah, they killed so many Taino that they try to say that they were extinct. Exactly. Ooh. I like to honor always the the Bejiques, because what happened was, as we know, the smallpox decimated our islands, but it didn't kill us. It didn't kill everyone. And my theory is that those Bejiques, they managed to find some solutions, herbal solutions to that. There's stories that when the invaders went to Mexico to invade there, when they reached the villages, people were already dead. The whole village was dead. That's why 25 million indigenous from Mexico, this big question mark, like, how did they lose to the invaders that were like maybe 5,000? It was the smallpox, germ warfare. Before they got there, they were dead. So I like to honor those Bejiques, those medicine people who really did their best to keep the people alive, man. That's why we're here. We're descendants of horrible catastrophe that occurs, horrible war. So please give yourself a pat in the back and do your best to be the best Taino you can be. Now, our ancestors, the whole race thing and DNA, that all that is important because it confirms who we are. It shows people that, hey, man, I come from these people. I got the DNA. But what's most important is to live the culture. What do the bats in the caves represent within Taino culture? Okay, the bats. Very good question. The bats, they are the opias. They're the ancestors. Because many of the caciques and the people were buried in the caves. So when the Bejique goes back to the cave, they will commune with the spirit world. And those are the opias. Mautirarie Guayaba, which is the Lord of the Dead, Semi. He's represented as a bat, the Lord of the Dead. So these are the spirits, the opias. I know in the Caribbean, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell me that if be careful when the bats come out, they're gonna get caught in your hair, and it's hard to get them out. And people were always scared to walk at night looking at the bats, And some people used to say, oh, it's just like espiritu, those are the spirits. Be careful, they're gonna possess you, So it's kind of interesting how the Count Dracula can turn into a bat, right? But bats are often seen as bad people. But I always keep them. I always keep a bat over my bed. Yeah, that's my bat right there. That's my buddy. In one of the videos that I put, I found out I have Taino ancestry in the last few years, but I have been struggling to find a safe community to reconnect. Any advice? Hey, hit me up. Taino Fun House at gmail.com. I'll give you some options. I could break it down for you. Taino Fun House at gmail.com. I've been in many communities, so I have a good understanding of the dynamics of different communities, and whatever you like, I could try to match you a community. Because different communities, Yucayekes have different, my opinion, they have different ways of showing the culture. So if you're an artist, if you're an activist, if you're just looking, I can help you with that. Anyone who's listening to this video in the future as well, or watching this video, please write me at tainofunhouse at gmail.com, and I'll try to help you out. When I was in San Cristobal in Dominican Republic, I went to a cave. There's a video that I in my old videos. We were in a cave, and I was playing my flute, and we're doing some chants with Cacique Moinayer, and it was empty. The cave was empty. It was dark. All of a sudden, you felt like it was crowded. Those spirits showed up, and we had a person there who what do you call it? It's sensitive to that. And at one point, it was like she was like suffocating because it was so many presents, So, I'm telling you, man, those caves are powerful. That's the beginning. That's the source of life. That's the birth canal. And as you get deep, when you get deep in those caves, what's there? The water. Water. I think pregnant women have water too, right? Is that? Anyone know what? I always forget the word for it. The for the fluid. Oh man, and I need if you're watching, I know Esther will probably be upset that I forgot this the word for it. Man, does anyone know what the fluid is called? Where the embryo starts to grow and or the fetus starts to grow and becomes when it's ready to come out. That's right. Embryonic fluid. That's it. So when you go into the caves, man, you're going way inside. That's where the water is. There you go. Our ancestors were super smart, man. They were the biologists back then. Will do. Thanks. All right, cool, Yasmin. So yeah, man, it's when you go to the Caribbean, man. You know, I'm planning next year to sponsor a trip. If you guys are interested, I want to take you guys to the caves, both in Borinquen and Dominican Republic, um, so we can investigate, walk what they walk, pray what they prayed, you know, and so much to learn, so much to learn. And if you live in Borinquen, you live in Quisqueya, hey, you can help us, right? Um, yeah. So if you have any more questions, I think I want to close down this show and hold on a second. So I guess the takeaway was that Columbus is um, his doctor was offended by our men, our ancestors, you know, calling them uh, sodomites, and of course the women they encounter as well. It's just horrible, you know. And then you have it's very difficult to go back in the past and judge our standards. So I know a lot of people are probably offended when I said that the husbands will lend their wives to people who come, visitors to the village. But if you look at that at a deeper level, that's generosity to the extreme almost, right? But maybe for them it wasn't an extreme. For us, yeah, right? Because we've been conditioned. That's a sin, no, that's wrong. How can I go about through the ways of passage? How can I go about going through the ways of? Yeah, man, let's talk, man. Let's meet up. I can definitely help you with that, man. How can we go about? Are there many specific offerings one can provide for obias? Yeah, man. Tobacco is the best. The best. That's candy. This is what I was taught by numerous tribes and medicine people. Is that tobacco is candy for our ancestors, and when we eat it, it's bitter. It makes us purge. It cleans us out. But for them, it's candy, sweet. For us, it's bitter. For them, it's sweet. See the dualism there? So if you get us, it could be any tobacco. Try to get organic tobacco if you're gonna smoke it. But if you're just gonna offer it, any tobacco is good. I've seen medicine people use regular cigarettes even smoking. Whatever you can find, as long as it has some tobacco in it, and you go buy a tree. The tree people, right? I mean, the old video I mentioned about the tree people, they look out for us, the tree people, and put some tobacco by a tree. If you go to a cemetery, it's always important to put that tobacco down for our relatives who are in the spirit world. It's candy. Look at it as candy. It's giving them honor. So that's one offering. A lot of people offer fish too. In some tribes, they offer meat or fish. Especially when you go by a water. You honor the Bagua, Yokahu. His middle name is Bagua, which is the sacred waters. So water is, I mentioned this in the short videos. Tobacco, also water. You can pour water down. I know in the cities, many people use alcohol, to drink. You can do that as well. But definitely, because we used to drink mabi and chicha and stuff like that, which was a social thing. So, yeah, those opias are powerful. If you go to a park, especially with its caves, you'll see them. They'll come. Especially when you have plenty of tobacco, they'll come. They'll come and talk. So, Yeah, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up. In the next show, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna start from the beginning of traditional lifestyle, and then I'm gonna say how we live now. What stuff survived that you might think is not Taino, but it is. Okay, so I'm gonna do like a double dualism kind of thing, traditional and also contemporary, and see what we got. Um, so it's always important. Learn your past, but stay rooted right now. Stay rooted in the indigenous tradition. And remember, guys, generosity. That's our medicine, right? Generosity. If you can gift someone, gift them. When I was with the Two Spirit Society, they always used to say, bring something. It can be food, it can be drink, or a smile, or a joke. But bring something. Be generous. Yaya is the other name for the creator. Yeah, Yaya. Yeah, that's another. Well, Yaya is one of those old stories. See, there's like two stories, two creation stories. There's Yaya, and then there's that Yukahu understanding through the Semis. Oh, email address Taino rate. So that's the old one. Taino Fun House at gmail.com. Taino Fun House at gmail.com. Yeah, man. This Yaya's one of those early creation stories, and then um, the priests, Bartolome de la Casa spoke about Yokahu, Bagua Marakoti, and Atabe as the supreme beings. You know, thank you. Got it. Yeah. So much to learn. So much to learn. But at least we're up to the flight of the Guaya women. Wahayona took all the women and put it in my no. Next week I'll throw down about the what happened to Wahayona after that. All right, guys, man. I'd like to thank you all for being here, man. Thank you for taking the time on a Saturday night. Woo! That's right, man. Oh, wait, before I go, hold on. I got some Mavi right here. I don't want to sponsor the company because, they're not paying me, but I'm just kidding. But this is a Mavi. Taino, this is our traditional drink, man. It's interesting how companies, they're profiting off our culture. And this is Mavi, which was the beer. My great grandmother used to make this. I love Mavi. If anyone has high blood pressure, this is great. Mavi will lower your blood pressure. So I'm gonna get a little drink. I'm dedicated to you guys. All right. Hold on a second. I knew it. I need a bottle opener. Hold on, guys. Because I need to dedicate this to you guys. Yeah, man, if you guys were here, I would have dedicate this to you. I'll give you some. What does that say? We heard that smack. So, yeah, Yamavi is a root. It's from, bark. Sorry. It's from a tree. And I put a link. You can look it up. And this, I think they put real sugar in this. Damn, it's too small lettering. But usually, it's very bitter when you drank it, just like beer, But this is very bitter, more bitter than an IPA. But the real Mabi will get you ripped. Man, this is like you can taste the trees with this, man. That bark, yeah, it's bark, man. This you can, man. This is like kissing a tree, but it tastes good. So guys, I'd like to dedicate this Mavi to all you out there who are listening and watching this in the future. Be generous. You want to be Taino? Be generous. It was our way of life. Don't let anyone take you down. Don't let anyone say anything different. If you want to be traditional, Taino, be generous. That's it right there. Generosity. Man, I want to finish it, but man, this is good. I wish you guys were here. Maybe one day, if you guys come to New York, whatever, we'll have some nice Mavi. Awesome. Yeah, man. So if there's one thing that I can teach you guys about traditional Taino culture, is love is love. Generosity. All right, guys. Thank you again, and man, we got this. May Yokahu Bagua Marakauti bless you. May Atabe, the feminine energy, always give you that creativity. And remember, as she gave birth to Yokahu, sky, earth, water, connect with those, okay? Connect with the water, connect with the earth, our mother, and connect with the sky beings, man. Look up, look at the stars. This is what our ancestors did, okay? Feather up. Awesome, man. God bless you all. Peace out. Bo Kwatukan. Blessings.